In the year 3127, humanity had spread across the stars like wildfire. Dozens of planets thrived under human hands, each a testament to ingenuity and survival. Earth, however, was different. It stood as a monument, a relic of the past, untouched for centuries. Once the cradle of civilization, it now lay silent, preserved in reverence by those who called themselves its children. Dr. Ilara Voss floated weightlessly inside the observation deck of Eos, an orbital research station orbiting Saturn's moon Titan. Her fingers danced over holographic screens filled with streams of data. She was one of the few xenolinguists left in the galaxy, her job to decode messages intercepted from deep space. Most were fragments of static or meaningless noise, echoes of dying stars and forgotten civilizations. But today felt different. The signal came at 4:17 Universal Time. A faint pulse, barely audible above the cosmic hum, rippled through the void. At first, it seemed random, just another blip on the radar. But then it repeated, over and over again. "Help us, or all will fall." Ilara froze. The words were distorted, warped by distance and time, but unmistakably clear. They weren't in any known language, yet somehow they resonated deeply within her mind. It wasn't just a plea, it was a warning. She played the recording again, leaning closer to the console. "Computer, analyze frequency patterns," she said aloud, her voice steady despite the chill creeping up her spine. "Processing," replied the AI assistant embedded in the station's systems. Moments later, it spoke again. "Signal originates from coordinates X9876YZ, located beyond the Helios expanse. Estimated travel time using current FTL technology, 6 months." Ilara frowned. Beyond the Helios expanse. That region was uncharted territory, shrouded in myths and cautionary tales among explorers. No ship dared venture there, not since the infamous disappearance of the Odyssey Dawn 2 centuries ago. But what intrigued her most was the message itself. Whoever, or whatever, had sent it knew about humanity. Not only that, they addressed them directly. This wasn't some automated distress beacon drifting aimlessly through space. Someone out there wanted humanity's attention, and urgently. Ilara forwarded the findings to the Council of Planetary Governors, the governing body overseeing human colonies. Within hours, debates erupted across the network. Some dismissed the signal as a hoax or interference from rogue AI. Others argued it could be a trap set by hostile species, hoping to lure humanity into a false sense of security. Captain Cal Arden watched the Council's live feed from his flagship, the Aegis Vanguard. As commander of humanity's elite defense fleet, he'd seen enough threats to last 10 lifetimes. Yet something about this signal gnawed at him. It wasn't fear, it was curiosity and instinct. He turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Mira Solon. "What do you think?" he asked, gesturing toward the screen where Ilara's analysis scrolled endlessly. Mira hesitated before answering. "If it's real, we can't ignore it. If it's fake," she trailed off, shrugging slightly. "Well, we'll deal with that when it comes." Cale nodded slowly. He didn't need convincing. Something about the signal felt personal, as though it had been waiting specifically for humanity. For him, whatever awaited them beyond the Helios expanse. One thing was certain, ignoring it wasn't an option. As the council argued below, Cale made a decision. He would investigate, with or without permission. Captain Cal Arden stood alone in the dimly lit archives of the Aegis Vanguard, his boots clicking softly against the metal floor. The room was rarely visited, filled with dusty databanks and forgotten relics from humanity's past. Most considered it a graveyard of outdated information, useless clutter from an era long gone. But Cal had always been drawn to history. He believed that understanding where humanity came from was key to knowing where it could go. Tonight, however, he wasn't here for nostalgia. His instincts told him there was something important hidden among these ancient files, something tied to the mysterious signal they'd received. As he sifted through holographic records, one name caught his eye. Project Phoenix. What is this? He muttered under his breath, pulling up the file. What he found made his pulse quicken. Project Phoenix was a classified initiative launched centuries ago during humanity's darkest hour, a time when wars ravaged Earth and colonies struggled to survive. Desperate for a way to protect their fragile existence, scientists created an elite group of warriors. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were genetically engineered superhumans, designed to possess unparalleled strength, intelligence, and resilience. Their mission? To defend humanity at all costs. But then came the twist. According to the records, the project was abandoned before its completion. Officially, it was labeled a failure due to ethical concerns. Unofficially, whispers hinted at something far more sinister, rumors of betrayal, sabotage, and cover-ups. Whatever the truth, the warriors themselves vanished without a trace. Cale scrolled further, his eyes narrowing as he pieced together the puzzle. There was mention of cryostasis pods, advanced chambers capable of preserving life indefinitely. Each warrior had been placed inside one, scattered across remote locations throughout the galaxy. Activation protocols required proof of an existential threat, one so severe that only the Phoenix warriors could handle it. "This has to be it," Cale whispered, his heart pounding. The distress signal wasn't just a random cry for help. It was a trigger. Someone, or something, out there knew about Project Phoenix and wanted humanity's greatest protectors awakened. He wasted no time. Summoning Lieutenant Mira Solon to the archives, he briefed her on what he'd discovered. At first, she looked skeptical. "You think we should wake up centuries-old warriors based on some old files? This sounds risky." "It's not just some old files," Cale replied firmly. "This is our best shot at figuring out who sent that signal, and why. If these warriors are half as powerful as the records claim, we'll need them if things get worse." Mira hesitated, but eventually nodded. "All right, where do we start?" Cale pulled up a map of known pod locations. "The first pod is buried beneath Europa's ice. If we can reach it, maybe we'll find answers." Within hours, the Aegis Vanguard changed course, heading toward Jupiter's icy moon. Along the way, Cale couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into uncharted territory, not just in space, but in history itself. Who were these warriors? And would they even want to be awakened after centuries of slumber? As the ship approached Europa, anticipation crackled through the crew. They didn't know it yet, but their lives, and the fate of humanity, were about to change forever. The icy surface of Europa stretched endlessly before the Aegis Vanguard, a frozen wasteland bathed in the pale light of Jupiter's massive presence. Captain Cale Arden stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the holographic display, showing the pod's exact location deep beneath the ice. It was buried kilometers below, hidden away as if time itself had tried to erase its existence. "This is it," Cale said, turning to Lieutenant Mira Solon and a small team of engineers. "We don't know what we're dealing with down there, so stay sharp." The crew worked quickly, deploying drills and thermal equipment to carve through the thick layers of ice. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the hum of machinery and occasional updates from the engineering team. Finally, they broke through. Beneath the frost lay a sleek, metallic chamber, a cryostasis pod, unlike anything they'd ever seen. Its surface shimmered faintly, pulsing with a soft blue glow that seemed almost alive. "Is that normal?" one of the engineers asked nervously, stepping back. Cale ignored the question, focusing instead on the control panel embedded beside the pod. He activated it, and a stream of data flooded the screen. The name Commander Cirrus Kane appeared prominently, along with vital signs indicating life. Faint but steady. "She's still alive," Mira breathed, her voice tinged with awe. With no time to waste, Cale initiated the awakening sequence. The pod hissed as it began to open, releasing clouds of vapor into the frigid air. Inside lay a figure clad in a form-fitting suit, their body perfectly preserved despite centuries of dormancy. Commander Cirrus Kane stirred slowly, her eyes fluttering open to reveal piercing gray irises that scanned the room with sharp intensity. For a moment, she said nothing, her expression unreadable. Then, in a voice both commanding and weary, she spoke. "Where am I? What year is this?" Kale stepped forward cautiously. "You're on Europa. It's the year 3127. You've been asleep for over 300 years. Cirrus blinked, processing the information. Fragments of memory flickered across her face. Images of battles fought, comrades lost, and missions abandoned. She sat up slowly, wincing as her muscles adjusted to movement after centuries of stasis. "The signal," she murmured suddenly, looking at Cal. "Did you receive it?" Kale exchanged a glance with Mira before nodding. "Yes, that's why we're here. We need your help." Cirrus nodded grimly, already piecing together the situation. "If the signal reached you, then the threat must be real. But I can't do this alone." She gestured toward the pod. "There are others like me, scattered across the galaxy. We'll need them too." Over the next few days, Kale and his team worked tirelessly to locate and awaken the remaining Phoenix warriors. Each pod revealed a new member of the legendary squad, each unique in skill and personality. There was Zinrax, a demolitions expert with a gruff demeanor but unmatched tactical brilliance. Lyra Voss, a bioengineer capable of adapting alien technology for human use. And Torin Vale, a strategist whose calm demeanor masked a razor-sharp mind. However, reviving them wasn't without challenges. Centuries in stasis had taken a toll on their bodies. Some pods malfunctioned during activation, leaving their occupants critically injured or worse. Cirrus faced agonizing decisions about who could survive reactivation and who couldn't. Every loss weighed heavily on her, reminding her of the sacrifices demanded by duty. Despite the setbacks, the group began to bond. Zin clashed with modern tech until Mira patiently taught him how to adapt, earning his reluctant respect. Lyra marveled at advancements in medicine, while Torin studied star charts, marveling at humanity's expansion into the cosmos. As the team grew stronger, so did their resolve. They were no longer relics of the past, they were humanity's greatest hope. And though none of them knew what awaited them beyond the Helios expanse, one thing was certain. Together, they would face it. The Aegis Vanguard hummed with newfound energy as the awakened Phoenix warriors adjusted to their roles aboard the ship. Commander Cirrus Kane moved through the corridors with purpose, her presence commanding respect even from those who barely knew her. She was a leader by nature, but she also carried the weight of responsibility. Each decision she made could mean life or death for her team, and, ultimately, humanity itself. Zinrax, however, wasn't making things easy. The demolitions expert had spent most of his time grumbling about overcomplicated junk that passed for modern technology. His frustration boiled over one morning when he accidentally triggered an alarm while trying to recalibrate a weapon system. Engineers scrambled to fix the mess, and Zin stormed off to the engineering bay, muttering under his breath. Lieutenant Mira Solon found him there later, tinkering with a piece of equipment he clearly didn't understand. Instead of scolding him, she leaned against the wall and crossed her arms. "Need some help?" Zin glanced up, his expression a mix of irritation and embarrassment. "I got this," he growled, though his tone lacked conviction. Mira smirked. "Sure you do, but if you blow up half the ship, Captain Arden might have something to say about it." Reluctantly, Zin handed over the device. Mira knelt beside him, explaining how it worked in simple terms. Her patience surprised him. Most people would have dismissed him as outdated or useless. As they worked together, Zin began to open up, sharing stories of his days leading demolition teams during wars long forgotten. Mira listened intently, occasionally offering insights into how far technology had come since then. "You're not so bad at this," Mira said after they finished repairing the device. "Just need a little guidance." Zin grunted but gave her a rare smile. Guess I owe you one. Meanwhile, Lara Voss, the bioengineer, immersed herself in the ship's medical bay. She pored over data on alien biology, marveling at humanity's advancements while lamenting what had been lost. When she stumbled upon records of extinct species wiped out by human expansion, she grew quiet, her usual enthusiasm dimming. Torrin Vale noticed her mood and joined her in the lab. "Something bothering you?" he asked gently. Lyra sighed, gesturing to the screen. "We've done incredible things, but we've also destroyed so much. How can we call ourselves protectors when we've caused so much harm?" Torrin placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "That's why we're here, to make sure humanity doesn't repeat its mistakes. We carry the lessons of the past, Lyra. That's our strength." Their conversation shifted to strategy as Torrin pulled up star charts. Together, they analyzed potential routes to the signal's origin, debating risks and opportunities. Their dynamic was seamless. Lyra's creativity complemented Torrin's logic, creating solutions neither could have devised alone. Back on the bridge, tensions simmered between Cirrus and Kale. While both shared the same goal, their approaches often clashed. Kale favored caution, relying on diplomacy and careful planning. Cirrus, however, believed in decisive action, arguing that hesitation could cost lives. One evening, their disagreement escalated into a heated argument. "We don't have time to tiptoe around every decision," Cirrus snapped, slamming her fist on the console. "If we wait too long, whatever sent that signal will be unstoppable, and rushing in blind won't save anyone." Kale shot back, his voice rising. "This isn't just about your instincts. It's about keeping everyone alive." The room fell silent as the two locked eyes, neither willing to back down. Finally, Cirrus exhaled sharply and stepped back. "Fine. But remember this, if we fail, it won't just be us paying the price." Though their clashes were frequent, they weren't without merit. Each argument forced them to consider perspectives they might otherwise ignore, strengthening their resolve as leaders. Slowly, trust began to form, not just between Cirrus and Kale, but among the entire crew. As the Aegis Vanguard continued its journey, bonds deepened. Old warriors adapted to new realities, guided by the younger generation's optimism and innovation. Together, they forged a unity that transcended time, a fragile yet powerful alliance ready to face whatever awaited them beyond the Helios expanse. The Aegis Vanguard pierced through the edge of the Helios expanse, venturing into a region of space shrouded in mystery. The crew braced themselves as the ship's sensors flickered unpredictably, overwhelmed by strange energy fields that seemed to warp reality itself. Stars appeared distorted, their light bending unnaturally, and ghostly shadows danced across the view screen. It was as if the expanse resisted their presence, warning them to turn back. Captain Kel Arden stood on the bridge, his jaw clenched as he monitored the readings. "We're approaching the coordinates," he announced, his voice steady despite the unease rippling through the room. "Prepare for anything." Commander Cirrus Kane joined him at the helm, her sharp eyes scanning the chaotic visuals outside. "This place, it feels wrong," she murmured. "Like it's alive." Her words sent a chill through the crew, but no one dared argue. They had already encountered remnants of ancient alien civilizations during their journey. Abandoned outposts, crumbling ruins, and cryptic symbols etched into asteroids. Each discovery hinted at a larger story, one involving an unstoppable force that had driven countless species to extinction. Now, standing on the brink of the unknown, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. Suddenly, alarms blared. A massive structure emerged from the darkness ahead. A colossal artifact floating silently near a dying star. Its surface shimmered with intricate patterns that pulsed faintly, resembling veins glowing beneath translucent skin. The signal grew stronger, emanating directly from the structure. "That's it," Cirrus said, her tone resolute. "That's where the message came from." Kale nodded grimly. "Let's not get too close until we know what we're dealing with. Deploy probes first." The team launched several drones to investigate, but within moments, the probes vanished without a trace. Static filled the communication channels, followed by eerie whispers that sent shivers down everyone's spines. Lieutenant Mira Solon adjusted the audio feed, trying to filter out the noise. What emerged chilled them to the bone. Fragments of voices speaking in dozens of languages, including early human dialects. Their warnings, Lyra Voss whispered, her face pale as she listened intently. Every word is a plea, telling us to leave while we still can. Zinrax snorted, though his usual bravado wavered. Yeah, well, I didn't wake up after 3 centuries just to run scared. Let's see what this thing's made of. Torin Vale shot him a sharp look. Careful, Zin. We don't even know if we're ready for whatever's inside. Despite the risks, the decision was unanimous. They had come too far to retreat now. Kale ordered the ship to dock at a safe distance, and the team prepared to board the structure. Armed with advanced weapons and protective gear, they stepped onto its surface, which felt unnervingly organic underfoot. The air smelled metallic, tinged with something unidentifiable yet unsettling. Inside, the corridors twisted like veins, pulsing faintly with bioluminescent light. Strange carvings covered the walls, depicting scenes of destruction and despair. One image showed a towering figure engulfed in flames, its shadow casting over fleeing masses. Another depicted ships being torn apart by tendrils of darkness. The message was clear. Whoever, or whatever, had created this place feared something unimaginable. As they moved deeper, they stumbled upon a chamber filled with holographic recordings. Each recording told a different story, but all shared a common theme: the fall of civilizations unable to resist the encroaching threat. One projection caught Cirrus's attention. It showed humans, not modern humans, but ancestors clad in primitive armor, fighting alongside other species against the same enemy. "We've faced this before," Cirrus said quietly, her voice heavy with realization. "This isn't just about us. It's about every living being in the galaxy." Her word hung in the air, underscoring the gravity of their mission. Whatever awaited them beyond these halls, it wasn't just humanity's fight. It was universal. And as the team pressed onward, their resolve hardened. They weren't explorers anymore. They were warriors stepping into battle, carrying the hopes of countless generations on their shoulders. Back on Earth, whispers of the Phoenix Warriors' resurrection spread like wildfire through political circles. The Council of Planetary Governors convened in secret, their holographic avatars flickering above a circular table in a dimly lit chamber. Some members were outraged, accusing Captain Cal Arden of overstepping his authority by reviving Project Phoenix without clearance. Others expressed fear, not of the warriors themselves, but of what they represented: unchecked power that could destabilize fragile alliances across human colonies. "This is reckless," Governor Elena Voss snapped, slamming her fist on the virtual table. "Do you realize what kind of message this sends to our allies? That we're preparing for war." Governor Marcus Hale leaned forward, his expression calm but firm. "And do you understand what happens if we ignore the signal and refuse to act? If there's even a fraction of truth to it, we're risking everything." The debate raged on, but one voice remained eerily silent. Darius Kane, a shadowy operative assigned to monitor the mission. Darius wasn't just any agent. He was part of the Oversight Division, a secretive branch tasked with ensuring humanity's survival at any cost. His orders were clear: sabotage the mission if necessary. But as days passed, doubt crept into his mind. Was awakening the Phoenix Warriors truly a threat, or humanity's only hope? Meanwhile, aboard the Aegis Vanguard, paranoia began to take root. Systems malfunctioned inexplicably: navigation errors, sudden power surges, and encrypted files being accessed without authorization. At first, the crew dismissed these incidents as side effects of traveling through the Helios expanse. But when critical life support systems nearly failed during a routine check, suspicion turned inward. Someone's tampering with the ship, Mira Solon said grimly, pointing to a string of anomalies on her console. This isn't random interference. It's deliberate. Cal's jaw tightened. Find out who's behind it. Cirrus Kane stood nearby, arms crossed, her piercing gaze scanning the room. Could be someone here. Or, she paused, her voice dropping. Or someone sent to stop us. Her words struck a nerve. Eyes darted around the bridge, lingering briefly on unfamiliar faces. Among them was Darius, who had joined the crew under the guise of an engineer. He kept his head down, pretending to focus on recalibrating a panel, but inside, guilt gnawed at him. He hadn't expected to grow attached, to feel conflicted about carrying out his mission. The tension reached its peak when Zinrax confronted Darius in the engineering bay. "You've been acting strange ever since we left Europa," Zin growled, blocking Darius's exit. "What's your deal?" Darius raised his hands defensively. "I'm just doing my job." "Yeah. Then why does everyone get nervous when you walk into a room?" Zin shot back, stepping closer. "Spill it, or I'll make sure you regret keeping secrets." Before things escalated further, Ceres intervened, her commanding presence silencing both men. "Enough," she said sharply. "We don't have time for infighting. Whatever's going on, deal with it later." But the damage was done. Trust fractured among the crew, suspicions simmering beneath forced cooperation. That night, Kale summoned Darius to his quarters. The captain's expression was unreadable as he locked the door behind them. "I know who you are," Kale said bluntly. "And I know why you're here." Darius froze, caught off guard. For a moment, he considered denying it, but something in Cal's steady gaze told him it would be pointless. Instead, he sighed and nodded. "Orders," he admitted quietly. "I was sent to ensure Project Phoenix didn't endanger humanity." But what?" Kale pressed. Darius hesitated, then met the captain's eyes. "I don't think stopping you is the right call anymore. Not after seeing what's out there." Kale studied him carefully before speaking. "If you're lying, I'll throw you out the airlock myself. But if you mean it, prove it. Help us protect humanity instead of tearing us apart." From that moment, Darius became an uneasy ally, walking a fine line between loyalty to his superiors and his growing belief in the mission. Yet even as he worked to regain trust, doubts lingered in the minds of others. Who else might betray them? And how far would the Oversight Division go to maintain control? As the Aegis Vanguard pushed deeper into uncharted territory, shadows loomed not only outside but within. Betrayal lurked in every corner, testing bonds forged in fire, and threatening to unravel everything they had fought so hard to build. The Aegis Vanguard drifted cautiously toward the colossal alien structure, its crew tense and alert. Inside the artifact, the team had uncovered chilling truths about the galaxy's impending doom, a force so destructive that entire civilizations had vanished without a trace. But now, as they prepared to leave the structure behind, their worst fears materialized in an instant. Alarms blared across the ship, red lights flashing wildly. "Incoming hostiles," Mira shouted from her station on the bridge, her fingers flying over holographic controls. Multiple contacts approaching fast. On the view screen, biomechanical drones emerged from the darkness of space, sleek and menacing. Their bodies shimmered with metallic armor, and glowing cores pulsed at their centers like predatory eyes. They moved with unnatural precision, surrounding the Aegis Vanguard in seconds. "This isn't just an attack. It's a test," Ceres said grimly, gripping the back of Cal's chair. "They want to see what we're capable of." Kale nodded sharply. All hands to battle stations. Shields up, weapons online. The first wave struck with brutal efficiency. Energy blasts tore through the void, shaking the ship violently. Crew members scrambled to stabilize systems, while Zinrax led a counterattack, unleashing salvos of plasma torpedoes from the ship's cannons. Each explosion lit up the darkness, but the drones absorbed the damage with eerie resilience, regenerating almost instantly. They're adapting. Torin Vale called out, analyzing data streams on his console. Every hit we land makes them stronger. We need another approach. Cirrus stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos. Divide and conquer. Split them apart before they overwhelm us. With no time to argue, Kale followed her lead. He ordered the ship to execute evasive maneuvers, weaving through the swarm of drones while targeting isolated units. Lyra Voss worked furiously in the medical bay, patching up wounded crew members and devising makeshift solutions for damaged equipment. Meanwhile, Darius Kane proved unexpectedly valuable, hacking into the drone's communication network to disrupt their coordination. But the enemy was relentless. One drone breached the hull near the engineering bay, forcing Zin and Mira to confront it head-on. Sparks flew as they dodged its razor-sharp appendages, working together to disable it. Zin hurled a magnetic pulse grenade, sending the drone crashing to the floor in pieces. Breathing heavily, he turned to Mira. "Guess you're not half bad under pressure." "Focus, Zin," she snapped, though a hint of relief softened her tone. As the battle raged on, cracks began to show within the crew. Exhaustion weighed heavily on everyone, and tempers flared. When one of Torin's strategies failed, resulting in heavy casualties among the defensive turrets, Cirrus snapped at him. "We don't have room for mistakes, Torin. Lives depend on this." Torin clenched his fists but held his ground. "I'm doing my best, Commander. If you've got a better idea, I'm all ears." Their argument ended abruptly when a massive drone descended upon the bridge, smashing through the viewport. Shards of glass sprayed everywhere, and the vacuum of space threatened to suck them out. Quick thinking saved them. Darius activated emergency bulkheads, sealing off the breach just in time. Finally, after what felt like hours, the tide turned. Using Lyra's bioengineering expertise, the team modified their weapons to target the drone's regenerative cores directly. With pinpoint accuracy, they unleashed a final barrage, obliterating the remaining attackers. Silence fell over the ship as the last drone exploded into fragments. The crew sat slumped in their stations, battered but alive. Yet even amidst victory, unease lingered. This was only the beginning, and far greater challenges awaited beyond the Helios expanse. In the aftermath, Darius approached Cirrus privately. "You spared me earlier," he said quietly. "Why?" Cirrus looked at him evenly. "Because survival isn't about vengeance. It's about understanding. You chose to stay. Prove it was the right choice." Her words hung in the air, a challenge and a lifeline. As the ship limped toward safety, bonds tested by fire grew stronger. Humanity's greatest warriors were ready, not just to fight, but to endure whatever came next. The Aegis Vanguard limped toward the colossal alien structure, its hull scarred from the battle with the biomechanical drones. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage, but exhaustion lingered in every corner of the ship. Despite their victory, no one celebrated. Each member of the team knew they had only delayed the inevitable. A larger, more terrifying force was still out there, waiting. Inside the artifact, the team gathered in a vast chamber illuminated by pulsating veins of light. At its center stood a pedestal, etched with symbols that seemed to shift and writhe as if alive. Commander Cirrus Kane approached cautiously, her instincts screaming warnings even as curiosity drove her forward. "This is it," she murmured, brushing her fingers over the pedestal's surface. "Whatever sent the signal, this is how we answer." Torin Vale studied the carvings closely, his sharp mind piecing together patterns. "It's a failsafe," he said after a moment. "An activation sequence for something powerful. Weapons, perhaps. But look here." He pointed to a faint inscription near the base. "It requires a sacrifice." "A sacrifice?" Kale asked sharply, stepping closer. "What kind of sacrifice?" Cirrus frowned, deciphering the text. "Not an object. It's life energy. Someone has to channel their own vitality into the system to activate whatever defenses are stored here." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Sacrifice wasn't just symbolic. It meant death, or at least severe harm, to whoever volunteered. "I'll do it," Zinrax declared suddenly, stepping forward. His usual gruff demeanor softened slightly. "I've lived long enough. If this stops whatever's coming, then it's worth it." "No," Ceres said firmly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're needed elsewhere. We all are. This decision falls to me." Kale stepped between them, his voice rising. "Absolutely not. Ceres, you're our leader. We can't afford to lose you. And if I don't act, we'll lose everything," she countered, her tone unwavering. "This isn't just about us, Kale. It's about protecting humanity and every other species out there. I made a vow centuries ago to defend this galaxy. Today, I fulfill it." Before anyone could argue further, Ceres placed her hands on the pedestal. A surge of energy coursed through her body, lifting her off the ground as streams of golden light enveloped her. Visions flooded her mind, memories not just of her own past lives, but of those who had come before her. She saw battles fought, sacrifices made, and civilizations rising and falling. She felt the pain of loss, the weight of duty, and the unyielding hope that bound them all together. "Ceres!" Lyra cried out, reaching for her, but Torin held her back. "We can't interfere. It's too late." As the process continued, cracks began to form in the pedestal, destabilizing the chamber. Alarms blared, warning of imminent collapse. Darius Kane, standing quietly in the background, made a sudden decision. Rushing forward, he grabbed tools from his belt and began stabilizing the core mechanisms, buying time for the others to escape. "You idiot!" Mira shouted, pulling him away as debris rained down around them. "You'll get yourself killed." Darius smirked weakly. "Guess it's my turn to make a choice." Finally, with a deafening roar, the pedestal erupted in a burst of light. The chamber shook violently, forcing the team to flee. As they reached the exit, Ceres collapsed into Kale's arms, pale but alive. Her strength was nearly gone, but her eyes burned with determination. "It's done," she whispered. "The weapons, they're ours now." Behind them, the artifact sealed itself shut, its purpose fulfilled. Though battered and diminished, the crew carried newfound resolve. They weren't just warriors anymore. They were guardians of eternity, entrusted with humanity's last hope. And somewhere deep within the expanse, the enemy stirred, unaware that its greatest challenge awaited. The Aegis Vanguard fled the collapsing alien structure, its engines straining as the colossal artifact began to disintegrate behind them. The crew sat in stunned silence on the bridge, their faces etched with exhaustion and awe. They had succeeded in activating the ancient weapons, but at a cost that weighed heavily on everyone's hearts. Commander Ceres Kane lay unconscious in the medical bay, her body frail and pale from the life energy she had sacrificed to awaken the defenses. Lyra Voss worked tirelessly beside her, monitoring vitals and administering treatments, but even her advanced bioengineering skills could only do so much. "She gave too much," Lyra said quietly, shaking her head. Her body might never fully recover. Cal Arden stood nearby, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. Guilt gnawed at him for allowing Ceres to take such a risk, yet he knew there had been no other choice. She had acted out of duty, a selflessness that inspired both admiration and sorrow. Turning to Torin Vale, who was reviewing data logs from the artifact, Kale asked, "What exactly did we gain? Are these weapons enough?" Torin hesitated before answering. "They're powerful, more than anything humanity has ever created, but they weren't designed for conventional warfare. These are tools meant to fight something beyond comprehension, something vast." His words sent a chill through the room. No one spoke aloud what they all feared, that the enemy waiting beyond the Helios expanse might be unstoppable. Meanwhile, Darius Kane remained in the engineering bay, working feverishly to stabilize the ship's damaged systems. His actions during the escape hadn't gone unnoticed, though still viewed with suspicion by some. Others began to see him differently, not as a saboteur, but as someone willing to put himself in harm's way for the greater good. When Mira Solon entered the bay to check on repairs, she found him slumped against a console, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. "You need medical attention," she said firmly, kneeling beside him. Darius waved her off weakly. "I'm fine, just tired." Mira sighed, grabbing a medkit. "Stubborn doesn't mean invincible, you know." As she tended to his wound, Darius glanced up at her. "Why are you helping me, after everything I've done?" "Because redemption isn't given, it's earned," Mira replied simply. "And you've earned it." Elsewhere, Zinrax paced restlessly in the cargo hold, his fists clenched as anger simmered beneath the surface. He blamed himself for not stopping Ceres, for failing to protect those under his care. When Torin joined him, offering quiet reassurance, Zin finally broke down. "We're supposed to be legends," he growled bitterly. "But look at us. We're broken." Torin placed a hand on his shoulder. "Legends aren't born perfect. They're forged through pain and sacrifice. What matters is how we rise after falling." Hours later, Ceres stirred awake, her voice faint but steady. "Is it done?" she asked, looking around at the gathered team. "It's done," Kale confirmed, kneeling beside her. "Thanks to you." Ceres managed a weak smile. "Then let's finish this." Though battered and diminished, the crew rallied together, preparing for the final confrontation. The weapons now at their disposal were unlike anything they'd ever seen. Energy beams capable of tearing through starships, shields impenetrable to conventional attacks, and drones programmed to adapt instantly to any threat. Yet none of them felt triumphant. Victory came at a price, and sacrifices lingered like scars. As the Aegis Vanguard charted a course deeper into the Helios expanse, each member reflected on their journey, the bonds they'd formed, the losses they'd endured, and the choices that defined them. Redemption wasn't just for Darius, it belonged to all of them. Together, they carried the weight of humanity's survival and the hope that their sacrifices would not be in vain. Far ahead, the enemy loomed, vast and unknowable. But aboard the Aegis Vanguard, humanity's greatest warriors stood united, ready to face whatever awaited them. The Aegis Vanguard emerged from the Helios expanse, its battered frame carrying the weight of humanity's hopes. Ahead loomed the enemy, a colossal entity shrouded in darkness, tendrils of shadow stretching across space like grasping hands. It pulsed with an unnatural energy, consuming stars and planets alike, leaving only emptiness in its wake. This was no mere force. It was a living nightmare, a beam born of destruction that sought to extinguish all life. Captain Cal Arden stood on the bridge, his voice steady as he addressed the crew. "This is it. Everything we fought for has led us here. We may not survive, but if we fail, there won't be anyone left to pick up the pieces." Commander Ceres Kane joined him, her body still weak, but her spirit unyielding. She had sacrificed part of herself to awaken the ancient weapons, and now she intended to see their purpose fulfilled. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," she said firmly. "We're fighting for every species, every civilization that ever called this galaxy home. If we fall, let it be while standing tall." The team moved with precision, each member playing their role. Zinrax manned the weapon systems, his gruff demeanor replaced by grim determination as he calibrated the alien arsenal. Mira Solon worked alongside him, ensuring every shot counted. Lyra Voss monitored the ship's vitals, patching up critical systems even as they threatened to collapse under strain. Torin Vale coordinated strategy, his calm logic guiding them through chaos. And Darius Kane. He remained in the engineering bay, holding the ship together with sheer willpower, proving beyond doubt where his loyalty now lay. As the battle began, the Aegis Vanguard unleashed its newfound power. Energy beams sliced through the enemy's tendrils, causing them to recoil in agony. Adaptive drones swarmed around the ship, shielding it from retaliatory attacks. For the first time, The crew felt a flicker of hope. They might actually stand a chance. But the enemy was relentless. With each blow dealt, it grew stronger, regenerating faster than before. Its core glowed brighter, radiating waves of energy that destabilized nearby stars. The crew watched in horror as one star exploded into supernova, its light briefly illuminating the void before fading forever. "We can't keep this up," Zin shouted over the roar of alarms. "It's too strong." Cirrus clenched her fists, her mind racing. Then she remembered something, the artifact's final message. "The core," she exclaimed. "We have to destroy its heart. That's the only way." Kale nodded sharply. "All power to engines. We're going straight for the center." The Aegis Vanguard surged forward, dodging debris and energy blasts as it approached the glowing core. Inside the ship, sacrifices mounted. Darius stayed behind in the engineering bay, manually overriding failing systems to give the others a fighting chance. As panels sparked around him, he smiled faintly. "Guess this is my redemption," he whispered before the room collapsed in flames. Finally, they reached the core. Cirrus activated the ultimate weapon, a concentrated burst of energy designed to obliterate anything it touched. The ship shook violently as the weapon charged, the enemy lashing out in desperation. "Fire," Kale commanded. A blinding explosion erupted, consuming both the enemy and the surrounding region of space. Silence followed. Stunned, deafening silence. When the dust settled, the crew emerged victorious but scared. Their ship was barely intact, and losses weighed heavily on their hearts. Yet as they looked out at the stars still shining brightly, they knew their mission had been worth it. Back among the colonies, humanity rallied under the Phoenix Warriors' example. United and resolute, they prepared to rebuild, not just their worlds, but their spirit. In the face of despair, courage had prevailed. And though shadows lingered, dawn had broken once more.